This week on Talking Royals, we remember the Duchess of Kent, the oldest member of the royal family who's died. Did you know that she was secretly a teacher in Hull?
She asked Queen Elizabeth for permission to go and teach undercover.
What I want to do is try to bridge this enormous divide.
Royal author Valentine Low joins us to talk about his new book and life on the road for decades covering the royals. You don't talk directly to members of the royal family for these stories, do you?
Well, that's the official line.
And which royal got drunk with Eugene Levy for his new travel programme then?
Was getting drunk with Prince William on your bucket list?
That's the bucket.
Hello and welcome back to Talking Royals. Yes, we're back from our summer break. I hope you've missed us loads and loads and we've got so much to catch up on. Well, I'm Charlene White and I'm joined by Chris and Lizzie. Welcome back.
Hello, happy autumn.
Happy autumn. Yeah, officially we're in autumn. How's your summer?
Great, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
really good because the
way.
royals go a little bit quiet, which means we can go a little bit quiet. So yeah,
Yeah.
summers are generally quite good in this.
Yeah, because
In this
they
period.
hang out at Balmoral, don't they? So we don't really have to do much work over the summer.
Yeah, although there was bits and bobs over the summer. Meghan released her Netflix series. We
course.
had
Season 2.
Harry's. There was some news on Harry's Centre Barley charity. So there were things sort of
Yeah.
happening.
Yes, indeed. And we have our guest, Valentine Low, who one could argue has been keeping the royal family, as you say, in the headlines a lot in the last couple of weeks. Valentine, for those that don't know, you were the royal correspondent from, 2008 to 2023, and you've released this book called The Power of the Palace.
Power and the Palace.
Power and the Palace. And you have,
The palace is quite powerful.
it is quite powerful, and it has made so many headlines over the past couple of weeks, which we will get into a little bit later on. But you have worked with these two.
I've worked with these a long time. I've been lost in Southern Africa with Lizzie before, but that's a long
How
story.
does one
long
get lost
story.
in Southern Africa with Lizzie then?
Didn't we leave you in Angola once? And
We got stranded.
We had a
in-
simple task to get from Angola to Johannesburg, but somehow it all went wrong. We ended up in Namibia. Careless mistake, anyone could make it.
yeah.
Oh, okay, but
We had an adventure.
we
We
had
got
a-
there in the end. We
yeah.
didn't miss anything.
yeah, where
So,
were you whilst all this was
I was on a private jet with Prince Harry, so I just left these guys behind.
to like slum it?
Then there's all those things on Royal Tour when you're stuck on buses with each other, or people waiting for the latecomers. Not often me, but others. Let's just keep talking. And, we do literally spend a lot of time in one another's company.
It's actually one of the nicest things about the job is that you work in a pack and you get to know everyone really well, and it's sort of like a glorified school
You
tour
understand in
sometimes.
really hot places in the sun for hours on end, or really wet places with no shelter for hours on end. One of those two things. You kind of bond over that.
Yeah. Do you miss it, Val?
Not 1 second.
Do you know why this conversation is going to be really interesting, Val? Is these two are still in it.
Yes.
There's loads of stuff
Yeah.
that they're not allowed to say, and all we're going to get from you is nothing but the truth, and I love that.
Absolutely. I mean, because the thing is, it's the people in between you and the royals that sort of get in the way. If only we had access to them all the time, it'd be much, much better.
Right, let's get into what the royals have been up to this week. And we've just found out that the oldest member of the royal family has passed, the Duchess of Kent. She was 92 years old, Chris, wasn't she?
Yeah, some sad news coming from the royal family, actually, just before we came in here to record this. So Catherine, as she's called, the Duchess of Kent, has passed away. And since the death of Queen Elizabeth, 3 years ago nearly, she has been the oldest member of the royal family, married to the Duke of Kent. And she's got fascinating stories. I think there's going to be a lot of people who say, I don't remember this particular member of the royals, but if you were of a certain generation, you will remember a very young and glamorous new entrant to the royal family after her marriage in 1961 to the Duke of Kent, and someone who did a lot of work on behalf of Queen Elizabeth then. Clearly, they were much higher up the line of succession, and they would go for the those independence ceremonies, of which there were many in the 60s. And she was a very hard-working member of the royal family. But by far my favourite story of hers is the fact that she asked Queen Elizabeth for permission for, it was about 12 to 13 years, to go and teach undercover, effectively, at a primary school in Hull music. That was her passion, to teach music, where she was known as Mrs. Kent, not the Duchess of Kent, Mrs. Kent, the teacher, and no one knew.
That's incredible. So for 13 years, she was able to teach in a state primary school, teach music, and no one knew. She was just known as Mrs. Kent, which is amazing. And Val, when we think about that now, it's almost impossible for that to happen because that level of anonymity that she would have enjoyed back then was only revealed in, what, 2004?
Yes, well, when she stopped
Yeah.
doing it, she effectively did some press around it. Funny enough, she told the Hull Daily Mail, the local paper in Hull, that's what she'd been doing for 10 years.
It's incredible. And it's that level of animosity that just doesn't exist now because of social media, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You'd have photographs taken. You'd be busted within by the end of the day, I think now. And it's a shame that the royals can't lead more normal lives.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a very, very normal job, and we were really lucky. She spoke to us years ago about the job and what she enjoyed about it. So let's take a listen.
There are schools, of course, who have excellent music facilities, but I would say the majority probably don't. And what I want to do is try to bridge this enormous divide. Why shouldn't all children have equal opportunities in music? Why not?
And what she's talking about there, isn't it, is that she worked in the state school and she was sort of saying that she taught all these kids music and then there wasn't necessarily the opportunity for them to use that music later on in their education. And she fought hard for that and she really worked hard in highlighting that issue, didn't she?
She was also very well known for her roles at Wimbledon. She used to present the trophies there a lot, and she was often seen comforting players when she was, that hadn't won, wasn't she?
Again, there's something that speaks to her unconventional way of doing things, not just the school, but she was famously pictured hugging Jana Novotná in I think it was 1993, after she'd lost to Steffi Graf in the final. And you didn't really do that, not as a royal, but also Wimbledon frowned upon that kind of emotion being shown. But she didn't care. She saw someone who was looking very upset and vulnerable, and she famously gave her a cuddle. Just like in, I think it was 78, when Martina Navratilova won her very first Wimbledon final. Her mother couldn't be there because she was from the Czechoslovakia, which was then a communist country, and her mother wasn't allowed to be there. So that was when the Duchess managed to secure for Martina a visa for her mother the following year.
There'll be a whole generation of listeners and viewers watching and listening to this, Val, who had no idea about the impact that the Duchess of Kent had. Do you think we're not always that great in understanding, respecting and remembering those that came before?
No, I think people get forgotten, and it's the fate of the royal family. Because when you're young, glamorous, and important, everyone knows who you are. Everyone's got an opinion on you, and then gradually, as your position in the line of succession gets further away from the throne, you become less important, less interesting, and as you grow older, less glamorous, and people forget about you, and that is the fate of royals.
What you have done, obviously, you've left your role at the Times, but you are continuing to tell those stories and making sure that they are remembered in print. And you've done this with the book, The Power and the Palace. Why did you decide to do it now? And why did you decide to choose this subject?
I did it because I didn't understand. Because I've seen series about Queen Victoria, I've read books about Victoria, and I couldn't understand how we got from Victoria, who was incredibly political. She wanted to choose who the Prime Minister was. She tried to sack ministers. She tried to influence government policy. She paid money to try and get the Whigs elected at one general election. I mean, it's extraordinary what she got up to. I wanted to understand how we got from there to Queen Elizabeth II, who did everything in her power to remove herself from politics, rather to be above politics, that's the phrase the palace prefers, and to have nothing to do with the choosing the Prime Minister. Because no one wrote new rules. There was nothing formal that said we're not going to do this anymore, but somehow the system changed, it evolved, and that's really what the book is all about, understanding that.
But there have been quite a few stories within the book that have really made the headlines. And Chris, it was the talk of all the broadcasters and papers earlier on this week, and that was the story about Camilla and an alleged indecent assault that happened at Paddington Station when she was just 16 years old. Before I get to the reaction of that, Chris, Where exactly did this story come from, Val? Because in order to do the book, you don't talk directly to members of the royal family for these stories, do you?
Well, that's the official line. I couldn't possibly comment. No, that came about because I was interested in Boris Johnson's relationship with the royal family, because that's been pretty bumpy over the years, culminating in his attempt to prorogue Parliament, suspend Parliament in order to get Brexit through, which got overturned by the Supreme Court and embarrassed the Queen. So I really wanted to get...
That's a fascinating chapter.
We were hoping that you'd talk about proroguing Parliament,
Yes.
so we didn't have to. So go on.
So I wanted to get into Boris's relationship, and I spoke, and I can name him because he's quoted on the record. I spoke to Guido Harry, who'd done Boris's comms when Boris was mayor of London, and also had a spell doing it when he was in Downing Street. And I was chatting about Boris's early encounters with the royal family as mayor. And Camilla wants to invite Boris for tea. Basically, she says to Charles, he looks like such fun, can we have him for tea? She and Boris get on incredibly well, absolutely. And Boris is absolutely full of it when he comes out. He's so happy. But in their hour-long sort of meeting over tea, they also discuss serious stuff. And Camilla tells him about... But the serious stuff is all about Boris wants to set up rape crisis centres around London, which is a cause dear to Camilla's heart. She's long campaigned on sexual violence and domestic abuse. And she tells him about how she was on a train as a teenage schoolgirl, and she was groped by this chap. And Boris is, of course, obviously absolutely agog at this and sort of astonished and says, well, what did you do? And Camilla says, well, I did what my mother taught me. I took my shoe off and whacked him in the nuts with a heel, which, shows great strength of character, should we say, the young Camilla. But in a way, I've always thought that the best thing about it is that not only did she see off this awful groper, but when she got to Paddington or wherever it was, she finds a man in uniform and tells him what's been going on, and the bloke's arrested. Which is, incredible sort of strength of character, presence of mind, and in a way, civic responsibility on her part.
But it does also, it's a very relatable story that I'm sure there are many people up and down the country could retell their own stories of a similar situation. But I guess that's what has perhaps informed her decision to take on and be the face of and to support the charities that she's chosen over the last few years.
Yeah, obviously we asked Buckingham Palace if they had a response when this came out from Val's book, and the palace always have a very strict policy of never responding to books, otherwise they might be doing it all the time. However, a source close to the Queen was saying perhaps something good. There was a good outcome that came out of a very negative experience that the Queen had. So I don't think it's not the only reason that she's interested in this subject area. And me and Lizzie have been to lots of events that she's been to in this field, and the speeches that she's made, and tried to bring the subject of violence against women, but also domestic abuse in the home setting, to bring it out of the shadows. So if people talk about it, they're less afraid to confront it. And that's something that she should be rightly commended for doing.
So if this story... obviously we say alleged because it's not come directly from the Queen. But what stops the Queen from talking openly about that kind of situation?
Well, this is what's interesting, is actually that because she has never spoken about this publicly and has talked a lot on this subject area. But, I think, as Chris says, she often doesn't want to make things about her and the focus on her. She wants to highlight issues. And I think... the fact that this is in the book is helping, and her story is helping destigmatise the subject area. And I remember the documentary that was on ITV about the work that she was doing. A source said at the time that one of her big hopes for that documentary, that it was really that it started a conversation and that it opened up a conversation and didn't make it such a taboo.
And I know we worked for ITV, but that was still the best royal documentary that I've seen in many years, just because of its rawness, but also the fact that the entire production crew were women, the camera, the editors, the producers, and there was something really unique about that documentary. And it's still available to be seen now if nobody's watched it.
Other bits that are in the book, Val, you talk about the Queen being a Remainer.
I do, yes. We all have assumed for years that she supported Brexit, and this basically is because of a notorious Sun front page during the Brexit referendum campaign, which said, Queen backs Brexit. And this was based on a conversation over a lunch at Windsor Castle a few years previously, where the Queen had said, I just don't understand the EU. And apparently she'd said this with some venom and emotion.
And she wouldn't have been alone in that, of course, not understanding the EU.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Val, while you're talking, just look at the Queen in this famous picture where she's wearing that blue hat with the alleged yellow stars of the EU flag, which apparently was just happened by chance. But this picture was after the EU referendum. So we're moving from the story that Val's just told about her allegedly being a Brexiteer, with this conversation you had with Nick Clegg, to potentially, in your book, saying she's a Remainer.
Yes, and the point, what happened immediately after that was that the Sun had its knuckles rapped by the press regulator, because they said that the headline, Queen backs Brexit, was not justified by the evidence in the copy. How could a lunch, when you express some mild dissatisfaction with the EU, say what your view is during a referendum campaign years later? Anyway, I spoke to a minister who will remain nameless, who said to me that during the campaign, this minister happened to have a conversation with the Queen, in which she said, I don't think we should leave the EU. Better stick to the devil you know.
Do you think it would have made a difference if she had been more open about her views regarding the politics of Brexit?
This conversation reached David Cameron's ears, and he had to think about, do I let this leak? Because of course it could help their campaign, and he decided not to, because it would be wrong to betray a private conversation with the Queen. Obviously, the Brexit camp had no such scruples, but it's very interesting. We all know the result: 52 to 48 in favour of leaving. If people knew the Queen was not in favour of leaving, it might have swung it a bit. Who knows? It's a great what if of history.
It really is. Okay, let's move on to possibly the best bit of picture from the Royals this week, which I've watched several times since you filmed it when you guys were out and about yesterday. And that's the Prince and Princess of Wales about to royal duties. And they're at the Natural History Museum. They're with a group of school kids, I believe, from Lewisham, which is in South East London. And they're visiting the gardens. I cannot understand why they went yesterday when all weather forecasters had said it was going to absolutely chuck it down yesterday. So we take a look. Honestly, I just think it's brilliant. Let's see. So you can sort of see it doesn't look too bad at this point. And then if you keep, look at that.
So what you can't see is me, the other side of the camera, also crouching behind an umbrella trying to stay dry, but it did absolutely tip it down.
And you've got all these little kids whose parents have obviously done their hair so well that morning. You're off to see the Prince and Princess. You're going to see William and Kate. It'll be amazing.
But a lot of the headlines, I'm not sure if your editor, Val, had told you to
Former
write this.
editor.
What would you have done at the Times had they said, please write me an article about what's changed about Kate's hair? Would you have rolled your eyes and gone, oh...
Yes, I might have rolled my eyes. I might have expressed my opinion forcefully and simply.
So there was a lot of stuff on social media and elsewhere, some of it positive. Of course, it's social media, some of it very negative about the change of...
Is it blonde or is it blonde?
Yeah.
That's the big debate.
And unsurprisingly...
Sorry, blonde or...
Blonde.
Blonde?
Sort of a blondie brown.
Oh.
Well, unsurprisingly, not going to get into that because I don't care.
Good. Hold on a minute. I'm normally the one that doesn't want to talk about dresses and things, and suddenly you want to move on from a fashion thing.
Hair, no interest. Now, I tell you what, I'm very jealous of Prince William because he got to hang out with Eugene Levy, who I'm a massive fan of because I absolutely love Schitt's Creek.
I love Schitt's Creek.
An incredible show. You've never seen. I'm going to give you homework this week.
Oh, wow.
And your homework is to watch Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
Although it will take you a few episodes until you're hooked.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, I was there straight away.
You were there straight away?
Yeah, it took me about 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, same as you.
Yeah.
I
So
was
by
like
next
well
week,
into
I
it.
have to have watched What's it?
Schitt's Creek.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm on
and
it.
that's SCHITTS before anyone starts trying to.
Apostrophe S.
Yeah, apostrophe S for anyone tries to
wouldn't-
dog me into Ofcom. So Eugene Levy is in it, and Eugene Levy has a series which is on Apple TV, and he's just filmed an episode with Prince William. It's just been released. Oh well, it's ahead of its release. Well, let's take a look.
Oh my, it doesn't get much better than that.
Was getting drunk with Prince William on your bucket list?
That's the bucket.
That's the bucket, is it?
Oh, drinking with Eugene would be on my bucket list.
Was
Yeah,
getting
absolutely.
drunk with... He's got Prince William referred to himself in the third person. Was getting drunk with Prince William on your bucket list.
I need to start referring to myself in the third person. That's clearly where I'm going with.
Valentine Low agrees with you.
It opens up so many questions. What happened? Where did it happen?
Yes.
What were you drinking? Did you stay the night at Windsor? And the Kensington Palace said, no information. You've seen the clip, and that's all we're going to tell you.
Oh, I thought they'd be better at leaks than that.
No.
I'm very disappointed.
Rubbish. So I think the challenge is we need to get Eugene Levy on this show.
So this is a plea. Hi, Eugene. Hi. If you are listening or watching, hi. When
Sorry, I've
you're
not watched
here,
the
we would love you to come and hang out with us because we're pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a step down from Val Low, but we'd accept that.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'd love you to join us. That would be lots of fun. And I just want to hear the stories from Eugene.
Yes. Of course.
Because we just think he's amazing.
Right. I'm on it.
Yeah. So you've got homework. You've got to watch.
And
Schitt's
you've got
Creek,
homework.
And
Yeah,
you've got
yeah.
homework. I need you to guarantee.
Find Eugene Levy's
Eugene.
mobile number.
By next week. Val, it's been an absolute joy to have you in. I'm going to do a very quick thing. Harry's in London next week for Well Child. The question everyone asks every single time, will he see his dad?
I think there's a probably there. Ever since that interview that he gave after losing the court case about security, when he basically demonstrated that he wants to reach out, reconcile with them. So I think there's willingness on his part. Charles has always really wanted to make up with him. I mean, Charles is very sad about this huge rift at the heart of his family. But it won't be easy. It won't necessarily happen. But I think there's a better chance. There's a better chance than there has been.
Yeah, I think
After
that's
the
fair.
peace summit, as you
The
know, I
peace
call the
summit.
coffee morning between two press officers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're seeing him on Monday, so we'll come and report back to you everything.
You're seeing Harry on Monday.
Yeah.
Harry Monday for the Well Child Awards,
Amazing.
which he is patron of. He comes over every year annually, but he's in the UK for a few days next week, so there will be
Excellent.
opportunities.
Well, you guess what? If you guys tune in next week, you will have all the information for them, won't you?
We will.
You will. Brilliant. But that's it for now. Thank you so much, Val, for joining us. You are welcome back anytime.
Lovely.
You can hear us talking Royals every week by subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget, we have a huge back catalogue on a whole range of royal topics, and you can listen to those to your heart's desire until you join us again next week. So we'll see you then.